But you know what? We're going to see it now. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you follow on the Twitch side. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTube side. And make sure you like this video if you're watching it later. But did you know you could have been watching it now? Do you know we're about to watch it? It's live. Hello. Welcome to High View. And oh my god, my eyeballs. This is a scary map. Look how out on an island Dinkey King specifically is in this one. What did he do? Did he sleep with a Relic Dev's wife? Oh, no, it's fine. Flash also slept with the Relic Dev's wife because they seem to be out there in the middle of no man's. It feels like it's a lot easier for these two to connect to each other on each side, and then you've just got someone left out on their own. And those people are going to be the Mongol and the French players. So this is a little bit different to Game 1. Remember, Game 1, it was complete and utter mirror. Not only did we have all three civs matching for both teams, their positionings were matching as well, right? We had the Rus players in the center, we had the Mongol players to the north, and we had the French players to the south. This time around, the dynamics are very different. Because this time around, it's a French versus a Mongol on the south side, and vice versa on the north, right? The Rus players are still centralized. Remember, you can choose the location of your Rus player specifically by having them at the top of your playlist when you're in lobby, and they'll get the central point. And remember, the whole purpose of that is usually your center player is the greedy one because it's easier to protect them. They're harder to aggress. Not only do they typically have a longer distance between them and the enemy, the other detail is really important is if you as the enemy ever choose to run straight at the center player, you're going to get pinched on both sides, right? There's going to be a flank attack, and you're going to be stuck. You always want to have that flexibility to back away. And that's the beauty of attacking flanks, right? When you double up on a flank, you come around the side, you're always going to just retreat the way you came. It's very hard for your opponent to get right round the back of you without sacrificing something in the meantime. The cool part to look for here is where's that pivot going to be? Is it going to be mirrored where both the Rus players play through their Mongol sides to pressure France? Or are we going to get the situation where, like, maybe you play into the north on both sides and you have France and Rus versus Mongol and Rus? In which case, how is that one going to play out? Is it going to be that dynamic pew-pew army of ponies, right? The pew-pew ponies, the horse archers and the Magadai that just kite you out and win? Because I could see that being the difference maker here. I think if you're able to get into Magadai and support that with horse archers, you could decimate your opponent. The French cavalry will feel worthless. And that might be where you force this pivot point where the French player has to consider booming up, right? Just trying to go for a secondary third TC, look for a later point in the game, maybe go static in Arbitraries. And then instead of making a rapid raiding game, right, where it's all about cavalry, we then have to start talking about heavy siege. But openers shouldn't really have too much of a difference maker here. It's going to be standardized Golden Gates coming out. Mongol player lagging behind a little bit on both sides, and it's because, yeah, they went early into stables. They also did drop the outpost, so looking to just get that extra research. Cool idea as well, right? Because I think the purpose on this, was it for the raiding benefits? I think so. Has it been done on the other side? No. So Vegie actually hasn't dropped. He's done a different one. He's going aggressive with the outpost. Look at this. Okay, yep, we got the switch up already. This is what I was looking for. Usually you have to wait a few more minutes before someone deviates from the path, but that's not the case here. Vegie invest heavily by going in early with the racks. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's just stables. And while Flash can do something similar with an outpost rush, he's out of position for it. He can't move quick enough. It means that if he goes and does the exact same thing, he's already a step behind that of Vegie. And Vegie, forcing out an outpost, is going to look to garrison fast here. He should just commit on the villagers. Yeah, I don't know why he's hesitant for a second there. Feels too late now, so you probably won't get the villies. But he's going to be able to garrison in. His outpost is completed first, and this should cause some frustration on the gold line. We'll back away before we lose the spears. Remember, this is very cost-effective for the Mongols in the early game. Something that a lot of people always forget is they're not paying double the cost of your limited food right at the beginning to double produce. They're using this passively generated stone, right? You invest 150 wood to eventually get 10 times that, right? And it gives you the ability to double up in the meantime. So that's the beauty of it, right? When you think about the way you have to scale your eco lines, and it can be very hard to balance an early army with teching up, Mongols are definitely on the better side of being able to do that, courtesy of the fact the stone passively comes in their economy. And where other people are limited by the amount of villages they can have gathering at any given point, you just essentially get a new pocket economy, right? It's like the fishing concept, right? In a different form, where we talk about docks and how they unlock the ability to get a new resource generating unit, the fishing boats. Well, this is your new resource generator, the Uvu. Need more Flash in the north, starting to move in. No villager. So this is just simply to try and steal deer away from the French player. A smart move. Dinkey King, remember, one of the big troublesome issues you have as a French is your economy is very expensive when you go into this night spam, right? It's not just the gold, it's the food as well. 140 food each is no small price. Meanwhile, central players, I think they are, yeah, they're pretty matched at this stage. Seither with a slight edge on the gathering rates. I think the difference maker here is the generation is slightly better. I mean, the wood line is a little bit tighter, so we'll give him that edge. And he did delay going into the Wooden Fortress in comparison to his counterpart. Also, if we look at these numbers, Seither 330 on the bounties so far, and then ShinkuPrPr only 255. So that makes up a small gold difference. The good news is ShinkuPrPr was able to access the second tier, though, so he got that increase in his gathering rate for food on his villages. There we go, raid in the back. Scouts moving in. This is smart, actually. So Dinkey isn't ready just yet. He didn't end up trying to go for the carcasses. He hadn't got into the research quick enough. In fact, Flash is fully invested in this. He hasn't teched up still. But the cool concept is if he ever burns this down, he's going to get resources for it. But look how hard it is to do. You do such little damage, you can't really melee the villagers. They can melee you for harder, actually. And as a result, every time he's attempting this, it gets insta-repaired. It's really pointless. What's he sacrificed in the meantime? Probably been the slowest person to tech up. I think Vegie. Ooh, no, he's actually ahead of Vegie. But remember, Vegie found a little bit more value. He pressured the French player here. He forced him to invest in an outpost, and he's forcing him off of his gold line. Is there a second gold line, though? There is, and he got the outpost down already. However, you could sneak in. Vegie could easily move here, drop an outpost just out of range of this one, and then he'd prevent his opponent from getting on gold entirely. That would be so big brain out of Vegie. I hope he does do this. It shuts France out entirely, right? Meanwhile, on the other side, this attempt coming out from Flash was underwhelming. I love this out of Seither. We talked about this on Dry Arabia. We didn't get to see it until now. This is really cool. So he's invested in scouts. He's gone for pro scouts as you do as Roos, but he's not being a greedy mofo about it. He's actually giving back to his teammate. Because remember what we said about Dinkey. Dinkey's going to suffer in terms of keeping up that production line of knights, right? Well, guess what? You just saved him investing not only in the scouts, which are 60 food each, and also means he can commit to knights instead of bogging himself down with scouts, but also you just saved him resources on going for the pro scouts, which with a 30% discount for France is still about 250 resources, which equals another knight in your early economy. So Vegie techs up. Flash actually didn't get there first in the end. Surprising. Wait, Flash? Okay, yeah, he got forced to garrison. That's really well played. Dinkey with the pressure already. I'm just trying to box in Flash for the moment. Meanwhile, another Mongol player, Vegie, just upgrading into the arrow slit so he can actually shift out and look to drop more buildings. But I think, did he lose the villagers? Yeah, he lost the villagers, but he's bringing out new ones. This is really cool. So remember, your opponent already has an outpost down, so he has vision on you. But look at this. This placement, this is going to give him a crawl in. I'm not sure if it's going to have the full range, but there's nothing you can do about it right now because there's too many spears here that will counter you out if you try and charge in. And Seither, first up into castle, not waiting around at all. His counterpart, ShinkuPrPr. No, ShinkuPrPr sidestep. Look at this. Multiple side steps, in fact. He goes for a second TC, and he's going to drop a high trade house. Conceptually, this is interesting, right? He has got the double tree line, so he's going to get a lot of value in terms of gold trickle. But also, it's the fact that this game could drag out a long time. You can generate a lot of deer, and you can potentially unlock that third tier, whereas normally you might be denied in 3-on-3. This does have some interesting repercussions. I mean, it's going to leave him very vulnerable on the relic front. I think the only person likely to engage with relics is, in fact, going to be Seither. That means that he can get ridiculous gold trickle that outmasses what you're going to get from the high trade house. High trade house is definitely safe gold. But as we know in life, when you're willing to take risks, usually it yields bigger rewards. And that's exactly what the Abbey of Trinity will do. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I kind of get where he's coming from. I think part of the reason he done this as well is because he built his second TC. He understood that he wasn't going to match Seither's timing if he was castle rushing, which he likely was. But now when you snipe in, look what Dinkey's doing! And you have to commit, you have to finish it, so you're going to lose several villages here. You did build the second TC, so you can recover it, of course. Still frustrating, though. And there you go, 153 gold per minute. Not bad, but remember, 2 relics and you're evened up on that. And there's only one player in this lobby that's going to go for relics. So Seither is going to get the lion's share easily. In the meantime, kept off his wood line. We'll look to resume. Went for a full garrison as well. I think that was a mistake out of ShinkuPrPr. He could have kept half of his economy active. There was no way Dinkey was going to continue to dive too deep. And if he does, you can still get Garrison quick enough, right, before he arrives. Instead, you give him maximum value without forcing him to completely commit. Now Dinkey will just look to turn and go in again. In the meantime, on the other French side, he is suffering. There's no access to gold right now for Neptune. Neptune, look what he's having to do. All the way back behind his base. All right, son. I know it's hard times, but drop an outpost. Don't risk it happening again, because right now you're being denied. And Seither now moving forward with the horse archers. More outposts coming out. In the meantime, from Vegie, just try to box his opponent in. You can see he's scouting around with the Khan. He'll probably find his way in and see what's happening in the back soon. But Dinkey coming from the north as well. And the French player's all alone. No one's assisting him here. They need to get troops ready fast. The problem is your horse archer spam is going to be delayed compared to Seither. Yes, eventually your TC spam is going to be better, right? You're going to be able to scale further forward of Seither's count. You'll be able to support more archery ranges. But for the moment, due to losing a few villages, and due to the fact that you aren't going to Abbey Trinity, so you won't have that surplus gold at the same level to trade for other resources, I think Seither for the next 5 minutes is kosher. He's going to be ahead of you on the horse archer count. And with the Knight Army in place, which is something that Neptune doesn't really have in comparison to Dinkey King, it is going to give them the edge to heavily pressure onto France here. Yeah, this isn't just a goal line anymore. He went for the food as well. Neptune is playing a very risky game, and there it is. Vegie sees him. The Khan won't be able to do much on his own, but it's the heads-up information. Dinkey can rap on this now if he wants to, and I wholly expect him to do so. Yep, there it is. Kind of reveals his hand with this knight, so they should actually look to shift away. But even if you shift away now, where do you go? It's so much open ground. This could just end Neptune in the blink of an eye. This could not have went worse. And my problem is this, right? It's not just Neptune's fault. You can't just blame him for this. You have to look at the other side and say, what the hell has Flash done this game? Because so far, he hasn't achieved anything. His pressure has been underwhelming, if even existing. Right? And meanwhile, Dinkey King, you can see how unpressured he is. He goes for a second TC. He's scaling up into multiple stables now. Of course, he had the Roost player helping him with the early carcasses to cover his food economy. And now look at the raid in. Snipes in on the villager line. Moves in on the goal line next after going on to the food. And now look at the count. Neptune, 45. If we look at his counterpart, Dinkey King, sitting at 48. But with that second TC, he's going to outboom him quick. And it's both the French players who haven't teched up just yet. Neptune not really having an option in it now, though. He needed that gold for an initial army. He's not able to get to that either. And he needs someone to come and relieve him. He needs to get through these outposts. They're not that tanky. The problem is you're losing your own outposts and nobody's here to help. Your only nearby player who could help is ShinkuPrPr. And he's building horse archers. Useless against outposts. Meanwhile, in the north, your Mongol player is building Magadai. This is useless in this situation. Wait, did he build Magadai in the end? No, I'm imagining things. Ignore me. I'm waffling. I think he maybe did. I swear I saw some in the field. I mean, if he hasn't built Magadai, I have even more questions. Where's your economy? What have you been doing this whole game? It's not your job to boom up. The French player needs your assistance right now. And even if you reach Castle, the fact that you haven't counter-pressured means that it's going to be 2 players in Castle versus 3 players in Castle. Not to mention, that player staying in Feudal doesn't have a standing army. It's not like Neptune is sacrificing his tech up to be present militarily. He isn't present really at all. Right now, he wishes he could escape to a far-off land anywhere but just in his brain, right? Because everything about this game is not fun for him. And he has to keep taking risks. This is something that France does really well when they're ahead, right? Pocket economies being economies that aren't connected to your primary, they have risks associated with them, right? But it doesn't feel good in this game because, well, you're being pressured. You aren't setting the tempo. Instead, you're being exposed left, right, and center. And right now, you're being denied on the gold. You're taking risks every time you come out here. And now with your food reaching a similar scenario, you really, really wish that you had a Roost player dropping off carcasses at your base to feed you. Another detail to highlight, by the way, is the fact that that Roost player never went into Pro Scouts. So, if you really want bang for buck as Seither, you achieved it this game. In fact, I don't think any other player... Yeah, one other player. It was Flash. Flash was the only one to go to Pro Scouts. This is a really warped way to play this composition. So you have your greedy Roost player booming up and teching up, but then your Mongol player is playing greedy with his eco side being the Pro Scouts gatherer, which also sacrifices his early economy and means he's not going to have as many military units early. And that's the difference maker here, right? When we look across the other side, Pro Scouts wasn't taken here. Pro Scouts wasn't taken over here. Either, as you can see on the mill, only one player, who was also your greedy tech boomer, was the one to take the eco gathering, right? And he provided for his teammates. And that play alone is what is setting Seither apart in this series, right? His Roost gameplay is on point. He knows when he needs to be greedy, and he knows when he needs to be sacrificing. And we're seeing that differential come into play between game 1 and 3. Lancer's now coming up from Vegie. He's finally in position. But I am still concerned heavily. Like it's Spearman. It's not going to end you right now. But where is the reinforcements? You're just being picked apart by horse archers. Neptune just left on an island. Finally, reinforcements will arrive. And it is a superior horse archer count, so Neptune will be protected as Seither has to back away. But meanwhile, Seither, here's where the 2nd battalion is. Trying to protect against the raid. Remember, he's got greedy now. He's expanded out. Seither, has he gone up to 2 TCs, though? No. This could hurt him in this raid. The good news is he's got a lot of relics, right? He's up to 4 at this point. He could easily get more. Has anyone else been gathering them? No. They're just in contested territory. Flash with a wraparound. Stabs right into him. Blocked Dinkey King from retreat. He's going to lose a few of these knights. Nice maneuver out Flash there. And Dinkey, this is dangerously close to your base. And he doesn't have a standing army after this. It's just a few knights, and that's literally it. And Flash, although it was a delayed move, although I criticized his greed, he's now making the right moves. He's looking to pressure. And he has got the siege engineering, so he can build into a siege army and get straight into the base. Vision is important here as well, guys. And the thing you have to highlight is that both teams are limited in that. No one built central outposts. Nobody sees where these flank attacks are coming from. Vegie, going to be revealed, though. Chasing in. They're ignoring it. They're going straight towards ShinkuPrPr. Seither, he needs to be careful. He's going to be trapped between a rock and a hard place. Sorry, did I say Seither? I meant ShinkuPrPr. Colors today. I don't know what's up with me, guys. ShinkuPrPr retreats away. Seither does still need to be a little bit careful, though, because if they over-aggress here, look what's going to happen in the base. There's a move in right now. Flash in position. He's taking a fight of his own. Although he is forcing a 2-on-2 in the center, he's taking a 1-on-1 that is favored towards him. I do not know why, for the life of me, I thought yellow was on team 2. We'll ignore that. We'll get a moment of haphazard awkwardness. Flash had his early on, but now he is paying in dividends here. The investment is starting to yield results as he's getting the Mangonel army up. Battering Ram's also coming out. Only a small count of knights for Dinkey King in the meantime. But here comes the wrap in. Seither moving across. There's no mirrored movement, though. This is too slow from ShinkuPrPr. He's about to lose a teammate, or at least lose his army. Movement forward. No outpost being dropped. Big mistake out of Flash. He doesn't have the mobility, and instead his Mangonels are exposed. Movement in. It is range fire. It's not that effective. Wallalol's going to scare him away, though. He can't hang around Flash. Has to back off. He's going to lose both of the Mangonels. Gets one more shot out. Nope. Not good enough. Heavy damage onto the Horse Archer line. But that Wallalol may have just turned it. And Flash outnumbered here with Vegie also arriving. He gets the tankiness out from the arrow. And it means they're going to wipe him as he wraps in the back. Dinkey King arrives with the Knights. And the Mongol army is going to be wiped. And ShinkuPrPr, the promised support comes too late. The Horse Archer count is still in favor of Seither. Vegie moves in into the melee form on top of the Horse Archers. And when they turn, and they will have to burn, as ShinkuPrPr is in full retreat. And now Springel's also coming out from Vegie. He's going to start to ramp up. This is the power of going second sometimes, guys. This Mongol player didn't invest in a siege army. They take a big fight. They burn a big chunk of Flash's economy, being invested in that siege army, right? The double Mangonel. And now they can push across. And even if they lose the siege weapons, it evens up the trade. They're not behind, right? That's the power of this. But look what they do. They don't think about going for Flash. They want to kill off Neptune. Neptune, who still has not teched up. He's underway with the Royal Institute now, but he's vastly behind his counterpart, Dinkey King, already up in that castle. And he went Royal Institute as well, so you won't even get that initial technological edge. You'll be matched at every turn and exceeded by Dinkey. Seither, riding deep. Needs to get across quickly. This is a big map to cover when you're in 3-on-3s. And the difference is that Vegie is slow. But to balance that out, he keeps building siege weapons on the go, right? That's the power of the Mongols. That's the power of the Abbasids. That's where their potential lies in these team games. They don't suffer where other people would and where other people would require a forward base to keep up siege pressure. They just produce it out of thin air. And my question is, where's the army? ShinkuPrPr, he's going to be countered here. Like, another Mangonel, and you lose most of this force, right? Meanwhile, trying to rebuild in the north, Flash might try to resume an assault, but this time Dinkey's going to be present, right? The last time you caught him off guard, but this time he's rebuilding quickly in the Knights, and he is teched up into the vet rule status, remember. Something that your teammate is not. And Neptune, where is the army? Does he even have a standing army right now? He has 5 units, 5 military units. That's literally it. This is a big weakness in the plan. Double Agent Pangolin are about to come under heavy pressure. Fight underway. Forces them away. Horse Archers had to back off. You're exposing a lot of ground right now. This is incredibly risky to let your opponents get this much ground, but you just don't have a choice because Neptune is not present. This is the best he can do. He raids into Vegie's base while he's distracted by the pings on the northern front. And he will snipe out several villages, so good bang for buck there. But really, such a small pittance in the grand scheme of things is not going to slow down Vegie. Moving in. Mongols lead the charge. Slowly but surely with the Mangonels crawling across. Still no forward outpost, so not getting that additional movement speed. Last ones he placed were here in the center of the map. They're on the edge of the base now. And these two TCs are stacked close together. And you need siege relief right now. And here it comes. Flash riding in from the west. But he gets spotted out early. He didn't use the fog. Moving in. Mangonel shots will bait him to back off here. And that's going to give ground for the spears to engage. And they'll hold him at bay. And once you fold here, you're going to expose your own Mangonels. That's the difference maker. Archers versus the spears. Mangonel shots are good. Vegie loses the front line quickly. In the meantime, Seither trying to hold them back, and the wraparound comes in. The Lancers on the front, falling quickly to ShinkuPr's force. And despite the fact that they should have the numbers in their favor, they don't seem to have Dinkey anywhere nearby in enough units to take out these archers. In fact, Dinkey instead is raiding, counter-raiding into Neptune's economy, sacrificing the main fight. ShinkuPr riding out. Seither cuts his losses, keeps a decent amount of horse archers alive at least, but they have forfeited ground once again. And the question mark remains over both French players. Where they at? Because Dinkey, well, his force count seems Dinkey in these battles every time, right? Sitting at 21 units, and he's matched in the potence of existence by Neptune at 11 military units right now. They're just having their own little preschool fight, right? Slapping, rolling around on the ground. There's no punching here, okay? That's what adults do. And that's what the adults are doing in the center of the map right now as the punch comes swinging hard from ShinkuPrPr. And Seither, losing a lot of troops again, has to fall back once more. But the difference is this. This is the detail that always matters. It's the siege force that comes afterwards. This is a raiding force, a skirmishing force. The horse archers are meant to gain ground before the big fight. And then the big fight is decided by the Mongol players here. Right now, those Mongol players, what is the difference between these two? Flash, economy at 72. If I look across at Vegie's, though, down to 48. And he's picking his resources dry too quickly. Big mistakes being made here. This is such a greedy but smart play out of Flash, right? Usually in this type of game, going for a secondary TC is greedy as all hell. But I actually respect him for it, because in this game, you understand that you're already up against the ropes. Neptune has already failed you, right? You know he's in recovery. And if you try to play a perfect 2 versus 3, even play it perfect, it's very easy to still lose out. So instead, he gives himself the scalability, and then he will be responsible later on. And it's paying huge dividends. Vegie hasn't done something similar. Instead, only being 1 TC with a limited economy that can easily be sniped out by a small pittance of knights coming out from Neptune. There we go. Movement in. Flash. Straight across. He's like, I've been here before, but this time I brought friends. This is my big brother, ShinkuPrPr. Let me show you what he can do. He's on the high school archery team. Everyone's scared of him. The biceps on that lad, he could send an arrow a whole neighborhood across, and that's what he's looking to do as he moves into the French neighborhood. Dinkey King not even pulling back the villages. Oi, oi, oi. Even with 2 TCs, that's going to start to hurt quickly. And here come the Rams. Flash about to contribute. He says, thanks, big bro, I got it from here. On the southern side, Knights are starting to rack up. Vegie is being outnumbered here as well. So what was a good trade originally for him is starting to backfire as his French counterpart isn't here in these fights. And in a fight against the Mongols, he's starting to reach superior numbers in quality and quantity. March in, Dinkey King, such a small force of Knights. I'm starting to understand why they call him Dinkey, because this does look pitiful. It looks pitifully small. Horse Archer around the side. Seither, they're hit! The Bagadels are going to fall, but they've had their value already off that strike. So much damage done. The Horse Archer count right now. Slight numbering in favor of Seither, but Seither, so many of them heavily injured. The difference maker, however, is the fact that Dinkey has a second battalion of Knights riding in. It forces the Horse Archers away, it exposes the soft underbelly of the Mongols, and Flash will lose the battalion again. And Red France is quickly becoming his kryptonite, twice now being buffered away by the power of Seither. The flank attacks paying dividends once again will force a neutral standstill here on Highview. Right out by the slow forces. Vegie, I need to see more of the network. These outposts, you see he wants to build them, but he hasn't chosen to. The problem with Vegie right now is his economy's being raided again. Neptune, once more from the water deeps, he comes and he strikes at the land dwellers. And he forces a full garrison. There's plenty of outposts here. Vegie needed them all. 45 eco now. Neptune, the player who was harassed so long, now being up at 78, starting to outscale the Mongol in the south. And these raids are pure anarchy. Neptune's doing it again, this time in on the Seither. Seither does at least have a secondary TC now, but it's still damage done and it's still attention drawn. They have to return to base when they want to be pushing their edge. And that's the importance of this. This is what makes it so smart on Neptune. Yes, he's not present for that raid in the north. That failed attempt, right? But he actually hedges his bets. These raids in the south have forced the entire attention of Get on the Deer to come back to their bases. Instead of pushing the edge of that fight, right, taking it to the grounds to the north and trying to actually punish the Chinese players here, they have to just stay on their side. And it means it buys time for Double Agent Pangolin to recuperate their losses, build a new force, and go again. And Seither out of position this time. ShinkuPrPr looking to actually match the count. ShinkuPrPr up at 99 military. Seither sitting at 68. He hasn't rebuilt quick enough here. Raids in. Pitiful from Dinkey King. Not doing enough work. Being counted out now by Neptune every turn. And the Horse Archers, they're looking for exploitable value. They might find it soon as well. Straight into the economy they ride. Seither, so much farmland here exposed. He never walled any of this off. And he's going to lose a lot of villagers moving in. ShinkuPrPr, not really microing optimally, but who cares? There's enough things to shoot at here. Wrap round on the side, but Seither, with this pinch attack, it's not that good because he's on his own. He's outnumbered this time. So ShinkuPrPr doesn't have to run away. He can stand his ground against this. Doesn't even need the Warrior Monk to buff him up. He still has the numbers in his favor. He's looking to wipe Seither's army. And all of a sudden, the economy grind to a halt. Half of it's still working in the south side for Seither, but Seither is going to struggle to replace this army once it's gone, especially considering that ShinkuPrPr will easily have 30+ units still standing at the end. I say that. This pinch, this turnaround now, ShinkuPrPr, under the fire of the TC, got greedy. He needs to split off, and this is what he's starting to do. The micro, that was what was missing, and it means that Seither, with sheer force, is able to once again push away ShinkuPrPr. Really big mistake there as well. I think ShinkuPrPr could have actually put Seither in a very uncomfortable situation. He holds his economy, and then all he has to do is get through the surplus. Surplus that we know Seither doesn't have much of, and he should anticipate he doesn't, considering he's still rebuilding an army. But instead of microing it and pulling off with the start steps, he instead stands his ground and gets peppered by all sides from Seither. Seither also optimizing the way he microed that, not over-investing arrows into individual targets, gives him the edge and proves why Seither is such a top-tier player, as he's now going to wipe ShinkuPrPr's force. And speaking of force, look at the count for Dinkey now. Dinkey's online. It took a while, but he has the quantity over Neptune. He's scaled up in the blink of an eye. With all this farmland now, with his scalability into 3 TCs compared to what Neptune's doing, Neptune does not compare at all. He's a mere shadow in the face of Red France's rule. And finally, that rule may be able to be leveraged. But they have to get across. They put an end to these raids. They get a moment of breathing room. They now need to exploit this. Raids at the back once again. ShinkuPrPr using the last of the troops, but the outpost upgrades mean you don't really have to care about it. If you lose 1-2 villages, whoop-de-doo. You're always pop caps, so who cares? And this is day and night. You wouldn't think that Dinkey was lagging behind before, that he was being thrown under the bus. With a score like that, with an army this big, compared to his counterpart who was also being pressured, it really is a day and night difference. And Neptune, he's always been a liability in this game. After he got pressured early and there was no assistance out from his allies, he's always been the weak point, and it still has not changed. The only thing changed in this game is Vegie has at least been weakened in comparison, but I think you'd rather have a strong France player over a strong Mongol player at this stage with this much open ground to cover. Still, these relics never picked up. No one cares. Could add even more gold trickle, but no one bothered for it. Sacred Sight now being capped to the back for ShinkuPrPr. Wants a little bit of gold trickle where he can get it. But it's going to be 2 to the 1 as Seither's taking control of the central one. And has enough forces nearby to scare ShinkuPrPr away. Look at the army riding in. Dinkey King. He baited him in. Needs to get out quick. Charge gets triggered, but they're not quick enough to cut across here. However, that means you have to keep running. ShinkuPrPr can't turn around, and that means the horse archers are going to pick them apart in the retreat. You see the power of this. And Seither, what is the count right now? ShinkuPrPr sitting at 44. Dinkey King goes up to Imperial Age first. That was the detail I was looking for on the roost front. Because that roost front, Seither is likely to crack it sooner as well. Because right now, he is close to being pop capped, right? He's getting very close. He's doubling up their archer count at this point. So ShinkuPrPr, he's vulnerable. He can't afford to tech up. With all this open ground and the count in your favor, Seither could choose to look to imp age up if he wants. And if you ever imp age up yourself with the army outside your base like this, you're going to lose your base. So ShinkuPrPr doesn't have that same option. And if that option ever comes to fruition, it breaks the game. The extra range means you can't trade anymore. Not that that's going to matter, because right now Dinkey's the one looking to end this. The upgrade should be underway, looking to get these Vet Rule Knights into elite status. And once they're elite, nothing in this game will compare. And wrap around the back, trying to push Seither to an uncomfortable location. But look at this, an engagement on the side. ShinkuPrPr has to retreat away. These Knights, you can split half of them off and go around the back. Instead, he snipes into the economy, splits up, looking for the cycle into the economy and snipe out all of the production rates coming out from ShinkuPrPr. In the meantime, Seither continued to back up, sacrificing 1 or 2 horse archers here or there as he retreats through. Most of the Lancers falling quicker than they can actually counterattack here. Keep being dropped by ShinkuPrPr at the front of his base. These Knights are in, though. They're everywhere. They're causing pure anarchy. The spears move around the back from Flash. Are quick, but are they quick enough to shut down Dinkey? No. He rides in. He pinches from both sides. ShinkuPrPr is going to lose the horse archer division. And on the other side, these horse archers still even up the trades. Both Knights and Lancers chasing them. Seither distracting 2 players at once. And while that's happening, ShinkuPrPr, his army is going to be wiped. A turnaround coming in with the Paladin status achieved. Elite Rule Knights will wipe even veteran Spearmen here. And you see how quickly they fall. Dinkey King is exactly that. King on high view. And the raids continue even deeper. Vegie, in the meantime, not even needed. He's trying to get across here, do what damage he can. And there it is, the small contingent the Treb's committed to. And with a small group of Seither's horse archers, they hold against the Lancers. These Lancers too scared to jump in with a few mangonels and spears there. And that means Neptune's about to be exposed as well. Meanwhile, Dinkey gets a decent clump of the horsemen out, or knights rather, as a lot of them did survive. They're just so stupidly tanky at 364 health. And now he says it's the Mongols' turn. Rides into Flash's economy. And there's so much to burn here. Riding straight through and deep. That's going to cause more distractions. Meanwhile, still a few knights remaining in the economy of ShinkuPrPr. ShinkuPrPr sinking down now to 58 economy and 19 military units. Seither, meanwhile, 82 economy and 78 military. Keeps being dropped in the center as well by Dinkey King. Looking for that 4 base to reinforce from. Knights need to back away. Way too many spearmen here, getting a bit greedy. Meanwhile, the main contingent is in the base. And the Knights, they don't care about the spears. The spears cannot be produced quick enough here. More damage done to Flash. Flash can never stop gathering. Look at his food right now. He's completely stunted here. He has to sacrifice any villager he can just to get additional drop-offs to be able to afford what comes next. And meanwhile, in the south, they've gathered up now. Seither arriving with the horse archers, Trebs in position, mangonels as well. It is Neptune's turn to once again feel the pain. Oi, oi, oi. Knights raiding again. Flash not only suffering on the food front, he can't access gold anymore. The step readout is in Greed Town, and Greed Town belongs to Dinkey. And still, these Knights are alive on the northern side. He tried to tech up. Flash got interrupted. There's no way for him to easily get up into Imperial anymore. And it is pure anarchy being produced by Dinkey. Dinkey that can only ever be matched on the horse front by Neptune, remember, because the French Knights do get that bonus damage after a charge. And that means that even if Flash did make it up into Imperial, he would shadow in comparison to the Elite Royal Knights. Center base now down. Dinkey. He's ready to build quick. Meanwhile, south side, the desperation sets in. Neptune forced to engage. The army is just deleted. He's got nothing to show for all of his efforts. 35 minutes in, and he wonders why he bothered. Didn't have a choice. Resorting now to Horsemen. Horsemen that are already having to face Spearmen, so they do absolutely nothing. The Trebs in the meantime, forcing all the repairs to come out on the keep. But it's just a matter of time. Too many siege weapons in position. It's hard for him to maintain here. And there's no relief coming. They're distracted everywhere else at all times. Dinkey King being sent more resources by his teammates because he's all that matters right now. He's the only one able to be sitting in Imperial Age. Everyone else can't risk it. And that means Dinkey goes deeper. Onto the economy lines again. Finds ShinkuPrPr trying to go for the take up the Spaskaya Tower. He's going to get it. Big deal reach. ShinkuPrPr with the greed. It pays off. But can he last long enough to get the tech upgrades? Well, Dinkey's going to try to make sure he can't. Follows him onto the farmland. So many villagers exposed here. Never got the textiles either. How can you not get textiles in a game like this? Multi-TC, pressured multiple times now, and you still don't protect your villagers. And after that tech up, his food is grinding to a halt. His military count, pitiful 12. He needs food income right now. Instead, the villagers are just being butchered by the French cavalry. And relief isn't coming for you either. Neptune now in trouble. Main TC about to be exposed. The Mongol player, he took his time arriving, but when Vegie strikes, he strikes true. Central base from Neptune attempted to be built up. Flash moving across to try and assist. That's going to expose his own economy, though. Always on the defensive here. And nobody's able to assist ShinkuPrPr in the meantime. It's all on him to protect himself. Vegie now in on the primary TC. That's first landmark down. 2 to go. I say that. No, they got the school cavalry already. 1 to go. They can just target him out. Neptune's about to be sniped out of this game. The central base is not going to matter. They'll engage with it anyway with Dinkey King trying to siege through it. But it's too late. With this many spearmen, 50 spearmen here at the Royal Institute. The only thing they're going to learn in this establishment is how to set fire to things. And Mongols likey, that gives them resources as well. That is 1 player down. Neptune is out. ShinkuPrPr, the last hope, having reached Imperial Age with the superior elite horse archers. What can he do here? And will it be enough? Central base now gone. Dinkey King reinforcing, more ground being forfeited. Moves in, raiding onto the TCs. Small horse archer army. He needs more resources. And Neptune not even sending the gold across to his teammates before he died. That maybe would have given a pivot point for ShinkuPrPr. That maybe would have given him the option to look towards something else. Maybe get a siege line, or maybe consider Streltsy. Not that you'd want them when you're this stuck against cavalry. But now his options are so limited, it has to only be horse archers. There's never going to be a transition. And Dinkey King, meanwhile, king of cavalry, never needs a transition. Most people say let the hate flow through you, but Dinkey, he says let the lances flow through you and spurge your blood all over the sheep. There's Flash always on the defensive. I don't remember the last time we really saw him make an attempt aggressively. It's crazy to think that this is the greedy player that had Dinkey on the edge of being tapped out halfway through, but that is no longer the case. Dinkey, he has a little notebook, he writes down your names, he comes for revenge, and before you know it, he is Death Note itself. ShinkuPrPr still not giving up, but now that Vegie has arrived, the true siege is upon them. Seither just waiting for that tech up to complete. Remember, he cracked Imperial Age, and once he has actually teched up, ShinkuPrPr stands no chance at all. The count right now is in favor of Seither. Seither having about 60 horse archers to the 40. And when those upgrades are in play, which they're now starting to come, you are screwed. Spearman charging in. Outpost network down, so they're yammed up. And Vegie prepped to reach yamming speed here, as he wants to burn this business to the ground. Moving in, horse archers lead the way. Spearman following up straight into the fold. Just buying room for the Mangonels to move in. Meanwhile, no reinforcements ever coming as Flash is stuck in a one-on-one that he is constantly losing, as he's going to be once again raided by Dinkey. And despite their best attempts, this looks like it's the end. A slow but an inevitable death. After the start Neptune had, after the way he was denied, the only thing keeping them in this game was the way that Dinkey King was suffering alongside him. But although it took 40 minutes, we have arrived at the phase in the game where Dinkey does not remember the days of poverty. He only knows richness. He only knows victory. as they are going to achieve it here on High View and take this series over Double Agent Pangolin 2-1. Because with nothing left for the Mongols to push, with nothing soon to be left of ShinkuPrPr's base, and with Neptune already buried in the ground for a good 5 minutes, it has ended in favor of Get on the Deer. The Aussie boys will move forward here in the Age of Empires 4 Pro League 3v3 qualifiers. Whew, and what a way to do it. You know, really big credit going to both teams. This was not a one-sided affair. I've got to actually give a lot of credit over to Double Agent Pangolin. Despite the fact of how far behind they were making a decent effort to come back into this. You have to keep in mind that they were carrying Neptune the entire time. Neptune never really felt like he was in this game. In fact, if I just quickly show you the numbers on the charts, look at this. Look at how much Neptune suffers. This is the point where all the gold lines get stripped from him, right? That stops his scalability. Dinkey, meanwhile, although under pressure, is always finding a way ahead. And it's no surprise he gets all the stars at the end of the game because he really was the MVP to follow through here. Really big credit to Seither as well. I think the thing that Seither does really well, as I said, is he understands where he needs to pad other people's economies. And that's exactly what he done, dropping off the Deer early on. And that's what allowed Dinkey to get through the uncomfortable phase. That was the difference maker. Notice that on the other side, ShinkuPrPr never provided the same economy benefits to his French player. Instead, he literally looked across and went, Neptune, you're on your own, buddy. So not only was Neptune having to risk his villagers to go find gold, but also to find food as well. And that's the difference. That's what gives the edge. Vegie was able to make that outpost play because of that variable. That's the difference. If Flash had done the same on the other side, it wouldn't have been as effective. Dinkey would have still scaled better, and Neptune would have still been left in the dust. So instead, Flash taking the option to boom up himself was the best he really could do in that situation. Gives them the edge, gives them the win, 2-1 here to proceed through, and that is just the first series today. That took almost 3 hours because these games went so late. And it's kind of crazy to think, right? Because when you consider the way that yesterday was, a lot of these were not only 2-0s, but they were fast, right? They were rapido. They were just smashing through people. Cheesy strategies that backfired or just outright aggression. This time around, though, these teams being so closely matched, it's those small differences that have to scale up. They have to bide their time. They have to understand their power spikes and when they're weak. And that is the difference between champion and someone who's going to get between first place loser and 80th place loser. First place loser being silver, by the way.